The Billionaire's Reckoning. A tale of betrayal, revenge, and redemption. Shattered vows. The night everything broke. The crystal chandeliers sparkled like frozen tears above the grand ballroom. Elena Hartwell stood at the edge of the celebration, her champagne glass trembling in her hand. Around her, 300 guests laughed and danced, celebrating what should have been the happiest night of her life, her 5th wedding anniversary to Marcus Hartwell, the man she had loved since she was 19. She wore an emerald silk gown that hugged her delicate frame, her dark hair swept into an elegant updo. She had spent hours preparing for this night, wanting everything to be perfect. Marcus had insisted on this grand party, inviting everyone from their elite social circle. At 28, Elena had thought she understood love. She had thought their marriage was unbreakable. She was wrong. "Have you seen Marcus?" Elena asked her best friend, Sophie, who stood nearby with a concerned expression. Sophie's eyes darted away. "Elena, maybe we should go get some air." "Why? What's wrong?" Elena's heart began to pound. Something in Sophie's tone sent ice through her veins. Before Sophie could answer, a commotion erupted near the private lounge. Voices rose, sharp and accusing. Elena moved toward the sound, her heels clicking against the marble floor. The crowd parted as she approached, and what she saw next would burn into her memory forever. Through the half-open door of the lounge, she saw them. Marcus, her husband, his shirt unbuttoned, locked in a passionate embrace with Victoria, Elena's own stepsister. Victoria's red dress was hiked up around her thighs, her fingers tangled in Marcus's hair, his hands gripping her waist with a desperate hunger Elena hadn't seen in months. The champagne glass slipped from Elena's fingers, shattering on the floor. The sound echoed like a gunshot through the suddenly silent ballroom. Marcus jerked away from Victoria, his face draining of color. "Elena. Don't." Elena's voice came out as barely a whisper, but it carried the weight of a collapsing world. "Don't you dare say my name." Victoria adjusted her dress with a smirk that held no shame, only triumph. "Oh, Elena. Did you really think you were enough for him? Poor little orphan girl playing dress-up in our world?" Elena's stepmother, Margaret, emerged from the crowd, her face a mask of false sympathy. "Darling, these things happen in marriages. Perhaps if you'd been more attentive to your husband's needs." "Get out." Marcus's voice cut through the chaos, but his eyes remained locked on Elena. "Everyone, get out. Now." The guests dispersed in hurried whispers, their phones already out, recording the scandal that would dominate society pages for weeks. Sophie tried to reach for Elena, but Elena stepped back, her body rigid with shock. When the ballroom finally emptied, only 4 people remained: Elena, Marcus, Victoria, and the shattered remnants of a marriage. "How long?" Elena asked, her voice eerily calm. Marcus ran his hands through his hair, his composure cracking. "Elena, please listen." "How long?" 6 months, Victoria answered with cruel satisfaction. "Since your birthday party. Remember when Marcus said he had to work late? He was with me. In your bed." Elena's knees weakened, but she refused to fall. She had been raised in foster care after her parents died when she was 10. She had survived hunger, loneliness, and abandonment. She had learned to stand when the world tried to crush her. "I want a divorce," Elena said, her voice steady despite the inferno raging inside her. "I want nothing from you, Marcus. Not your money, not your name, not your excuses. I just want to never see your face again." "Elena, wait," Marcus reached for her, but she recoiled as if his touch would burn. "Don't touch me. Don't ever touch me again." The disappearance. 3 days later, Elena vanished. She left behind the penthouse apartment, the designer clothes, the luxury cars, everything Marcus had given her. She took only her mother's locket, her college certificates, and the money she had saved from her small freelance work, money Marcus had never known about because he'd insisted she didn't need to work. Sophie helped her disappear, driving her to the train station at dawn. Where will you go? Sophie asked, tears streaming down her face. Away. Somewhere I can breathe again. Elena hugged her friend tightly. Don't tell anyone. Not even if Marcus begs. Promise me. I promise. But Elena, are you sure you're okay? Elena pulled back, and Sophie saw something new in her friend's eyes. Not brokenness, but a fierce, burning determination. I'm not okay, Elena said quietly. But I will be. And when I come back, Sophie, I won't be the naive girl who believed in fairy tales. I'll be someone they can never hurt again. 5 years of silence. Elena disappeared into a small coastal city 3 states away. She rented a tiny apartment above a bookstore and enrolled in night classes for advanced computer programming and business management. During the day, she worked 3 jobs: waitressing, tutoring, and freelance coding. The first year was survival. She cried herself to sleep most nights, her hand instinctively reaching for the empty space beside her. She saw Marcus's face in every crowd, heard his voice in every laugh. The betrayal had carved out pieces of her soul, leaving her hollow and aching. But Elena had learned something in foster care that served her now: pain could be fuel. Anger could be transformed into power. By the 2nd year, she had stopped crying. She threw herself into her studies with obsessive focus, finishing her master's degree in 18 months while building a small portfolio of coding projects. She cut her long dark hair into a sleek bob and dyed it a rich chestnut brown. She lost the softness that had once defined her features, replaced by sharp angles and piercing gray eyes that missed nothing. In her 3rd year away, Elena launched her first tech startup from her tiny apartment. It was a cybersecurity firm that offered protection for small businesses against corporate espionage. She called it Artemis Security, named after the Greek goddess of the hunt: fierce, independent, and deadly accurate. The company grew faster than she'd dreamed possible. Elena had a gift for identifying security vulnerabilities and solving problems others couldn't see. Within 18 months, Artemis Security had expanded to 3 cities, employing 50 people and earning contracts with major corporations. By her 5th year away, Elena had transformed completely. At 33, she was no longer the gentle, trusting girl who had married Marcus Hartwell. She was Elena Cross, the surname she'd chosen to symbolize her rebirth, a self-made millionaire whose company was valued at $50 million and climbing. She kept track of Marcus, of course. From a distance, through business journals and society pages. She watched his company, Hartwell Industries, dominate the real estate and investment sectors. She saw photos of him at galas, always alone, his smile never quite reaching his eyes. Victoria appeared occasionally in gossip columns, her relationship with Marcus apparently having ended badly, leaving her scrambling for wealthy men to support her lifestyle. Elena felt nothing when she saw their faces. The love had died. Only the hunger for justice remained. The return. Ms. Cross, the car is ready. Elena looked up from her laptop to see her assistant, James, standing in the doorway of her corner office. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows behind her, the city skyline glittered in the evening light. Thank you, James. Did you confirm my attendance at the Mercer Gala tonight? Yes, ma'am. Your name is on the VIP list. And? James hesitated. Marcus Hartwell is also attending. He's the keynote speaker. Elena's expression didn't change, but her fingers tightened imperceptibly around her pen. Perfect. She had engineered this moment carefully. The Mercer Gala was the most prestigious business event of the year, where deals worth billions were made over champagne and small talk. Elena had spent months positioning Artemis Security to compete for a contract that would make or break Hartwell Industries' expansion into digital markets. Tonight, she would see Marcus for the first time in 5 years. Elena stood and moved to the mirror in her office. The woman who looked back was unrecognizable from the girl who had fled 5 years ago. She wore a midnight blue evening gown with strategic cutouts that revealed glimpses of toned shoulders and back. Her hair fell in sophisticated waves past her shoulders, and her makeup was flawless, smoky eyes that could freeze a man at 20 paces, lips painted a dangerous shade of red. She fastened her mother's locket around her neck, the only piece of her old life she'd kept, and took a deep breath. "Let's go remind them who they destroyed," she whispered to her reflection. "And show them who rose from the ashes." The gala. The Grand Celestial Hotel's ballroom was even more magnificent than Elena remembered from society events she'd attended as Marcus's wife. Everything sparkled, the chandeliers, the champagne, the diamonds adorning the throats and wrists of the elite gathered to celebrate their own success. Elena entered alone, her posture perfect, her expression serene. Heads turned as she passed. She had become beautiful in a way that commanded attention, not the soft, gentle prettiness of her youth, but a sharp, dangerous beauty that made people step aside. "Elena Cross." Richard Mercer himself approached, his smile warm. "I'm so glad you could make it. I've been following Artemis Security's meteoric rise. Brilliant work with the Kingston contract last month." "Thank you, Mr. Mercer. I'm honored to be here." They spoke for several minutes about business, about the future of cybersecurity. Elena was charming, intelligent, confident, everything she'd built herself to be. But beneath the polished exterior, her senses were attuned to every corner of the room, searching for one person. And then she saw him. Marcus stood near the bar, surrounded by a small group of admirers. At 38, he had aged in small ways that made Elena's breath catch despite everything. Silver threaded through his dark hair at the temples. New lines bracketed his mouth, lines of stress, not laughter. He wore a perfectly tailored black suit that emphasized his tall, lean frame, and when he laughed at something someone said, the sound carried across the room, familiar and foreign all at once. He hadn't seen her yet. Elena excused herself from Richard Mercer and made her way deliberately toward the bar, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might shatter her ribs. 5 years of planning, of building herself into someone worthy of revenge, had led to this moment. She was 3 feet away when Marcus turned. Their eyes met. The world stopped. Marcus's face went through a series of rapid changes, confusion, recognition, shock, and something else Elena couldn't name. His champagne glass froze halfway to his lips. "Hello, Marcus," Elena said, her voice smooth as silk and cold as winter. "It's been a long time." "Elena?" His voice cracked on her name, disbelief written across his features. That's impossible. "You're Elena Cross," she interrupted, extending her hand with cool professionalism. "CEO of Artemis Security. Though I suppose you knew me by a different name once." "A lifetime ago." Marcus stared at her hand as if it might disappear, then took it slowly. His touch sent electricity through her skin, and she hated herself for still feeling anything at all. "You're Elena Cross?" He was still processing, his brilliant business mind clearly struggling to reconcile the woman before him with the girl he'd known. "The cybersecurity prodigy everyone's been talking about?" "I prefer self-made CEO, but yes." Elena withdrew her hand, fighting the urge to wipe it on her dress. "I've been building something while you've been busy with, what was it?" "Oh yes, destroying everything you touched." The barb hit home. Marcus flinched. Around them, people were starting to notice their interaction, sensing the undercurrent of tension. "Elena, I need to talk to you. Privately. Please." "I don't think we have anything to discuss, Mr. Hartwell. Our business is concluded. Or rather, our business is just beginning." She smiled, and it was sharp enough to cut. "I'm bidding on the Mercer Digital Security contract. The same contract you need to save your company from the PR nightmare you've been drowning in for the past 18 months. May the best company win." She started to turn away, but Marcus caught her wrist. The touch was gentle but desperate. "Please," he said, and the raw emotion in his voice made several nearby guests turn to stare. 5 years, Elena. 5 years I've looked for you. 5 years of wondering if you were alive, if you were safe. And you were here the whole time, building an empire to destroy me? Elena looked down at his hand on her wrist, then back up at his face. In the harsh light of the ballroom, she could see the toll the years had taken on him. He looked exhausted, haunted. Good. You destroyed yourself, she said softly, pulling free of his grasp. I'm just here to watch you fall. She walked away before he could respond, her head high, her spine straight. She didn't let herself look back, didn't let herself acknowledge the way his desperate gaze burned into her back. But as she accepted another glass of champagne from a passing waiter, her hand shook so badly that the liquid nearly spilled. 5 years of armor, and 30 seconds in his presence had nearly shattered it all. This was going to be harder than she'd thought. The aftermath. Elena spent the rest of the gala being brilliant and charming, networking with power brokers, and pointedly ignoring Marcus's presence. But she felt him watching her all night, his gaze a physical weight she couldn't escape. When Richard Mercer announced the shortlist for the digital security contract, both Artemis Security and Hartwell Industries made the cut. The final decision would be made in 2 weeks after presentations from both companies. It's going to be a fierce competition, Richard said, smiling between Elena and Marcus, who stood on opposite sides of the small stage. The best minds in their respective fields. May the best vision win. The crowd applauded. Elena and Marcus looked at each other across the stage, and the air between them crackled with unspoken words, with 5 years of silence, with the ghost of a love that had died screaming. As the gala wound down, Elena made her way toward the exit. She was almost to the door when a familiar voice stopped her cold. Still running away, I see. Elena turned slowly. Victoria stood behind her, older now, her beauty harder and more calculated. She wore a dress that cost more than most people's monthly rent and dripped with jewelry, but there was something desperate in her eyes. Victoria, Elena said coolly. Still stealing things that don't belong to you, I see. Victoria's smile was poisonous. I heard you crawled back. Come to beg Marcus for forgiveness? He won't take you back, you know. Not after you abandoned him without a word. Abandoned him? Elena's laugh was sharp and bitter. Is that the story you're telling yourselves? You left him humiliated and heartbroken. He searched for you for years. And now you show up trying to ruin his business? You really are a vindictive little. Careful, Elena interrupted, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. I'm not the naive girl you and Marcus destroyed. I've learned to fight back. And trust me, Victoria, you don't want to be on my list. She leaned closer, her eyes like ice. I know what you did. All of it. The lies you told, the way you manipulated everything. And when I'm done with Marcus, I'm coming for you. Victoria's face paled, but she recovered quickly. You can't prove anything. Can't I? Elena smiled. Sleep well, Victoria. What's left of your comfortable life is about to get very interesting. Elena walked away, leaving her stepsister standing alone, fear flickering behind her eyes for the first time in 5 years. Outside, the cool night air hit Elena's flushed face like a blessing. She stood on the hotel steps, trying to steady her breathing, when she heard footsteps behind her. Elena, wait. She didn't turn around. Go away, Marcus. I can't. He was breathless, like he'd been running. Not until you listen to me. I don't want to hear your excuses. I don't have any. His voice cracked. What I did to you. Elena, there are no words. But please, let me explain what happened. Let me tell you the truth about that night. Elena finally turned, and what she saw in his face made her armor crack just slightly. He looked destroyed, barely holding himself together. The truth? She laughed bitterly. I saw the truth with my own eyes, Marcus. You and Victoria, in each other's arms, in front of 300 people. What truth could possibly matter after that? I was drugged, Marcus said desperately. Victoria drugged me, Elena. I know it sounds insane, but I swear to you. Stop. Elena held up her hand, her entire body trembling. Just stop. Do you know what the worst part is, Marcus? It's not even the cheating. It's that you destroyed me so completely that even now, 5 years later, hearing your voice makes my chest feel like it's caving in. And I hate myself for it. I hate that you still have any power over me at all. Tears streamed down her face now, the first tears she'd shed in years, and she furiously wiped them away. I built myself back from nothing, she continued, her voice breaking. I survived losing you, losing myself, losing everything I thought love was. And now you want to take that away too by making excuses? By asking me to believe you were some kind of victim? I was, Marcus said, his own eyes glistening. Elena, I loved you. I love you. That never changed. Don't. Elena's voice was a whip crack. Don't you dare tell me you love me. You don't destroy the things you love. She turned and walked down the steps, and this time, Marcus didn't follow. But as Elena climbed into her car and directed her driver to take her home, she allowed herself one glance back. Marcus stood alone on the hotel steps, his shoulders slumped, his face tilted toward the sky as if searching for answers in the stars. And for just a moment, Elena's heart whispered a dangerous question: what if he was telling the truth? She crushed the thought immediately. Truth or lies, it didn't matter anymore. The damage was done. The girl who had loved Marcus Hartwell was dead. Elena Cross had risen from her ashes. And Elena Cross had a score to settle. Part 2, Games of Power. The First Strike. Monday morning arrived with rain hammering against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Elena's office. She stood before the glass, coffee in hand, watching the city below struggle through the storm. It felt appropriate, she was about to unleash a storm of her own. James, send it, she said without turning around. Her assistant hesitated at the door. Ms. Cross, are you sure? Once we release this information to the press, there's no taking it back. Elena finally turned, her expression calm and resolved. That's exactly the point. Send it. Within an hour, every major business publication had received an anonymous tip with extensive documentation. Hartwell Industries had been cutting corners on building safety inspections for the past 3 years. The evidence was irrefutable: falsified reports, bribed inspectors, and at least a dozen properties with potentially dangerous structural issues. Elena had spent months gathering this information, hiring private investigators, tracking down paper trails that Marcus's own team had tried to bury. She hadn't created the scandal, she'd simply brought the truth to light. By noon, Hartwell Industries stock had dropped 15%. By evening, Marcus was issuing a public statement, his face haggard on every news channel. Elena watched from her office as he spoke, his words carefully chosen, his lawyer clearly coaching him from off-screen. He accepted responsibility, promised immediate action, vowed to make things right. But the damage was done. Sophie called as the sun was setting. Elena, what did you do? I exposed the truth, Elena replied calmly, still watching the news coverage. He built his empire on lies. I just reminded everyone. This could destroy him. Is that what you want? To completely ruin him? Elena was quiet for a long moment. I don't know what I want anymore, Sophie. I thought I wanted revenge. I thought seeing him suffer would make me feel better. But I just feel empty. Maybe because revenge isn't what you really need. Then what do I need? Elena's voice broke slightly. Tell me, Sophie, because I don't know anymore. Maybe you need to hear his side of the story. Really hear it. I saw what I saw. Did you? Sophie asked gently. Or did you see what Victoria wanted you to see? The unexpected visitor. 2 days after the scandal broke, Elena was working late when her receptionist called through the intercom. Ms. Cross, there's someone here to see you. She says it's urgent and personal. I'm not taking visitors today. She says her name is Catherine Hartwell. Elena's pen froze mid-signature. Catherine Hartwell, Marcus's mother. Elena hadn't spoken to her since the night of the anniversary party. Send her in. Catherine Hartwell entered the office with the same regal bearing Elena remembered, but age had softened her sharp edges. At 65, she was still beautiful, her silver hair elegantly styled, her simple black dress clearly designer but understated. Elena. Catherine's voice carried genuine warmth. My God, look at you. I barely recognized you from the photos. Mrs. Hartwell, Elena said coolly, remaining behind her desk. This is unexpected. I imagine so. May I sit? Elena gestured to the chair across from her. Catherine settled gracefully, studying Elena with shrewd eyes that missed nothing. You've done well for yourself, Catherine said. Artemis Security is impressive. Self-made, I read. No investors, no family money. Just pure determination and brilliance. Thank you. Though I doubt you came here to compliment my business acumen. Catherine smiled sadly. No, you're right. I came to tell you something I should have told you 5 years ago. Something that might change how you see what happened. I don't want to hear. Victoria drugged my son. The words hung in the air like a grenade. Elena's breath caught. Catherine continued, her voice steady but heavy with regret. I suspected it immediately, but I had no proof. Victoria had been obsessed with Marcus since high school, you know. She hated that he chose you, the foster child, the girl with no pedigree or money. In her mind, Marcus should have been hers. So she drugged him? Elena's voice was sharp with disbelief. That's quite a claim, Mrs. Hartwell. I hired a private investigator after you disappeared. It took him 3 years, but he found the bartender who served drinks that night. Victoria paid him $10,000 to put Rohypnol in Marcus's scotch. Just enough to lower inhibitions, make him malleable. Then she cornered him in that lounge and, well, you saw the rest. Elena's hands gripped the edge of her desk. Why didn't you tell me this years ago? I tried to find you. Catherine's composure cracked. Elena, you vanished. No phone, no address, no trace. Sophie refused to tell us anything. By the time I had proof, you were gone. And Marcus? Does he know? He suspected, but I only got confirmation 6 months ago. He's been trying to find you ever since, hoping to explain, to apologize, to. Catherine's eyes glistened with tears. To beg for your forgiveness. Elena stood and walked to the window, her mind racing. 5 years. 5 years of hatred, of building armor, of planning revenge. And it was all based on a lie? Why tell me now? Elena asked without turning around. Because you're destroying him, Catherine said simply. And part of me thinks he deserves it for not protecting you better that night. But another part, the part that raised him, that knows his heart, that part can't watch him lose everything when he's already lost the only thing that truly mattered. You. Elena laughed bitterly. You think I'm the only thing that mattered to him? He's a billionaire, Mrs. Hartwell. He'll recover. Money doesn't heal loneliness, Elena. I watched my son become a ghost after you left. He threw himself into work, built his empire higher, but he stopped living. He stopped laughing. He goes through the motions, but there's no life behind his eyes. Not until he saw you at that gala. Catherine stood and walked to Elena, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. I'm not asking you to forgive him. I'm not even asking you to stop your business competition, may the best company win, honestly. I'm just asking you to hear the whole truth before you decide what kind of person you want to be. What's that supposed to mean? It means you have a choice, Elena. You can become the kind of person who destroys others out of pain, or you can be someone who rises above the pain and chooses differently. The girl I knew 5 years ago would have chosen compassion. But maybe that girl is gone. Catherine squeezed Elena's shoulder once, then walked toward the door. She paused at the threshold, looking back. For what it's worth, I never blamed you for leaving. I blamed myself for not protecting you better, for not seeing Victoria's jealousy for the dangerous thing it was. You deserved better from all of us. And if you never speak to Marcus again, I'll understand. But you deserve to know the truth. What you do with it is up to you. The door closed softly behind her, leaving Elena alone with thoughts that threatened to shatter everything she'd built. The board meeting confrontation. The next morning, Elena attended the preliminary presentation for the Mercer contract. Both Artemis Security and Hartwell Industries would present their proposals to the board, followed by a Q&A session. Elena arrived early, her team in tow, her presentation polished to perfection. She wore a sharp black suit that screamed power and confidence, her hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail. She looked every inch the successful CEO she'd become. Marcus arrived 10 minutes later, looking exhausted. His suit was impeccable as always, but his face carried the weight of sleepless nights. When his eyes found Elena across the conference room, something complicated passed between them, pain, longing, and a question neither was ready to ask. Richard Mercer called the meeting to order. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Today's presentations will help us make our final decision. Ms. Cross, you'll go first. Elena stepped to the front of the room and delivered a flawless presentation. Her cybersecurity proposal was innovative, cost-effective, and clearly superior. She fielded questions with ease, demonstrating expertise that impressed even the most skeptical board members. When she finished, the room erupted in appreciative applause. Then it was Marcus's turn. He stood and began his presentation, but 5 minutes in, something changed. He stopped mid-sentence, looking directly at Elena. I need to say something, Marcus announced, his voice cutting through the confused murmurs of the board. Something that has nothing to do with this contract and everything to do with the truth. Mr. Hartwell, Richard Mercer interrupted, this is highly irregular. I don't care. Marcus's eyes never left Elena. 5 years ago, I destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me. I destroyed her through my carelessness, through my failure to protect her, through my stupidity in not seeing what was happening right in front of me. The room had gone silent. Elena's heart pounded so hard she thought everyone must hear it. Elena Hartwell, Elena Cross, Marcus continued, his voice raw, was my wife. On our 5th anniversary, she walked in on what appeared to be me betraying her with her stepsister. She saw what looked like the ultimate betrayal. And I let her believe it because I was too shocked, too slow, too stupid to explain that I had been drugged, manipulated, set up to destroy our marriage. Gasps rippled through the room. Marcus's own team looked stunned. I spent 5 years searching for her, Marcus said, his voice breaking. 5 years wondering if she was alive, if she hated me, if she'd moved on. And then she appeared at the Mercer Gala like a beautiful ghost, and I realized 2 things. First, that she'd survived without me and become even more incredible than I'd known she could be. And second, that I was still desperately, hopelessly in love with her. Elena couldn't breathe. The wall seemed to close in. So here's the truth about this contract, Marcus continued, turning to address the board. Elena's proposal is better than mine. Artemis Security is the future of cybersecurity, and Hartwell Industries is still playing catch-up. She deserves this contract on merit alone. But more than that, she deserves to know that the man she loved, the man who destroyed her trust, has spent every day since trying to become someone worthy of a second chance he knows he'll never get. He looked back at Elena, and tears streamed freely down his face now. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking you to love me again. I'm just asking you to know that you weren't wrong about me 5 years ago. The man you married really did love you with everything he had. Victoria's poison might have been in my drink, but the guilt of not protecting you is poison I'll carry forever. The room was utterly silent. Elena stood frozen, her carefully constructed armor cracking with every word. Mr. Hartwell, Richard Mercer said quietly, I think we should take a recess. No, Elena heard herself say. Everyone turned to look at her. No recess. We're all adults here. Let's finish this professionally. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook as she gathered her notes. She couldn't look at Marcus, couldn't process what had just happened in front of 20 witnesses. Marcus completed his presentation in a subdued voice, his eyes downcast. When he finished, the board asked perfunctory questions, but everyone knew the real drama had already played out. As the meeting adjourned, Elena escaped to the hallway, desperate for air. She made it to the stairwell before the tears came, hot and furious, 5 years of suppressed emotion finally breaking free. She sank onto the steps, her face in her hands, sobbing like the broken girl she'd worked so hard to leave behind. Elena. She looked up. Marcus stood at the top of the stairs, his own face wet with tears. "I'm sorry," he said simply. "For all of it. I'm so sorry." "Why now?" Elena asked, her voice hoarse. "Why tell them everything? You just tanked your own proposal." "Because I'm tired of lies. Because you deserve to hear the truth even if you never believe it. Because..." He took a shaky breath. "Because winning a contract means nothing if I lose what's left of my soul in the process." He turned to leave, but Elena's voice stopped him. "Marcus." She stood slowly, wiping her tears. "I need time. I don't know what I need. But I need you to understand that even if what you say is true, even if Victoria drugged you, the pain is still real. The abandonment is still real. 5 years of rebuilding myself is still real." "I know." His voice was barely a whisper. "And I'd wait 5 more years if there was even a chance you might let me try to make things right." They stood on opposite ends of the stairwell, 5 years and 1,000 unspoken words between them. "I don't know if I can trust you again," Elena admitted. "I don't know if I can trust anyone again." "Then don't trust me," Marcus said. "Trust yourself. Trust the woman you've become. Trust that you'll know the right choice when the time comes." He left her there in the stairwell, alone with her thoughts and the earth-shattering revelation that everything she'd believed for 5 years might have been a lie. The daughter. That evening, Elena drove aimlessly through the city, her mind a chaos of conflicting emotions. She found herself on the outskirts, near the small park where she used to take morning walks before her life exploded. She parked and walked to the playground, now mostly empty as dusk approached. A few children played on the swings while their parents watched nearby. And then Elena saw her. A little girl, maybe 4 years old, with dark curls and gray eyes that were achingly familiar. She wore a yellow sundress and chased butterflies near the flower beds, laughing with pure, unbridled joy. Elena's breath caught. It couldn't be. She'd been so careful. "Lily." "Not too far, sweetheart." Elena turned toward the voice. Sophie stood near a bench, watching the little girl with obvious affection. And then Sophie saw Elena. Their eyes met across the playground. Sophie's face went pale. Elena walked over slowly, her legs feeling like lead. "Sophie." "Elena, I can explain." "Is she mine?" Elena's voice was barely audible. Sophie's eyes filled with tears. She nodded. Elena's knees buckled. Sophie caught her, guiding her to the bench. "I found out I was pregnant 2 weeks after I left Marcus," Elena whispered, staring at the little girl who was now playing with a butterfly that had landed on her finger. "I didn't tell anyone. I was going to have an abortion, but I couldn't. I couldn't destroy the last piece of what we had, even though I hated him. Even though I hated myself." "Why didn't you tell me?" Sophie asked gently. "Because I knew you'd try to convince me to tell Marcus. And I couldn't. Sophie, I couldn't let him have her. Couldn't let him take the one pure, beautiful thing I had left." Elena wiped her tears. "How did you find her?" "She found me," Sophie said. "Last year. You'd listed me as an emergency contact at her daycare, remember? They called when you were stuck in that business meeting in Seattle. I came to pick her up, and the moment I saw her eyes, I knew. She's Marcus's daughter, Elena. She has his eyes." "I know." Elena watched Lily chase another butterfly. Every time I look at her, I see him. And it breaks my heart and fills it at the same time. Does he know? No. And he can't know, Sophie. Promise me. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. Mommy. Elena's head snapped up. Lily was running toward them, her face alight with happiness. Elena's heart soared and broke simultaneously as her daughter crashed into her arms. I caught 3 butterflies today. Well, I didn't really catch them, but they landed on me, which Miss Sophie says is even better because it means they trust me. That's wonderful, baby, Elena murmured, breathing in the sweet scent of her daughter's hair. Miss Sophie says we can get ice cream. Can we? Please? Of course. Elena? The voice came from behind them. Elena's blood turned to ice. She turned slowly, still holding Lily, to find Marcus standing at the edge of the playground. He was staring at the little girl in Elena's arms, his face cycling through confusion, recognition, and dawning shock. Lily looked up at the strange man with curious gray eyes identical to his own. Hello, Lily said politely. I'm Lily. Are you a friend of my mommy? Marcus couldn't speak. His eyes moved from Lily to Elena and back again, the truth written clearly in every feature of the child's face. How old? He managed to ask, his voice strangled. Elena held Lily tighter. Marcus, don't. How old? 4, Elena whispered. She's 4. The math was simple. The truth was undeniable. Marcus's knees gave out. He sank onto the nearest bench, his face in his hands, his shoulders shaking with sobs. Mommy, why is that man crying? Lily asked, concerned. He's just sad, baby, Elena said, her own tears falling. Sometimes grown-ups get very sad. We should help him feel better, Lily declared with the earnest conviction of childhood. Before Elena could stop her, Lily wriggled free and walked over to Marcus. She tapped his knee gently. Don't cry, mister. My mommy says when I'm sad, I should look at something beautiful. Want to see the butterfly that landed on me? Marcus looked up, his face devastated, and found himself staring into the eyes of his daughter, a daughter he never knew existed. Hi, Lily said again, smiling. What's your name? Marcus, he managed to say, his voice breaking on his own name. That's a nice name. Do you want to be friends? Something inside Marcus shattered completely. He pulled Lily into a gentle hug, careful not to frighten her, and wept into her hair while the little girl patted his back consolingly. It's okay, Lily said softly. Mommy says everything gets better if we're brave. Over Lily's head, Marcus's eyes found Elena's. In that gaze was a universe of pain, accusation, longing, and love so profound it threatened to consume them both. You kept her from me, he said, his voice raw. You had my daughter and never told me. You destroyed me, Elena shot back, her own voice breaking. What was I supposed to do? Let you destroy her too? I would have loved her. I would have, Marcus couldn't finish. The weight of 4 years of missed moments, first words, first steps, birthday parties, bedtime stories, crushed him. Lily pulled back, looking between the 2 crying adults with confusion. Are you friends? We used to be, Marcus said softly, wiping his eyes. A long time ago. Well, you should be friends again, Lily declared with the simple logic of childhood. Friends don't let each other stay sad. She took Marcus's hand and Elena's hand, trying to pull them together. See? Now you're both holding my hands, so you have to be friends. That's the rule. Elena looked at Marcus across their daughter's innocent smile. In his eyes, she saw 5 years of pain, of searching, of loss. But she also saw something she'd thought was gone forever, love. Raw, desperate, unshakable love. I don't know how to forgive you, Elena whispered. I don't know how to forgive you either, Marcus replied. For keeping her from me. For disappearing. For building walls so high I can't find my way in. Then we're even. Are we? Marcus asked. Or are we just two broken people who loved each other once and don't know how to anymore? Lily squeezed both their hands. My teacher says when friends fight, they should say sorry and hug it out. Despite everything, Elena laughed through her tears. It's not that simple, baby. Why not? Lily asked, genuinely confused. Because, Marcus said, his eyes never leaving Elena's, sometimes grown-ups are too scared to be brave. The truth of those words hung in the air between them. Sophie, who had been watching from a distance, finally approached. Elena, maybe we should. No, Elena interrupted. She looked at Marcus, really looked at him, and made a decision that terrified her. Lily, this man. Marcus, he's. She took a deep breath. He's your father. The world stopped. Marcus's breath caught. Lily's eyes went wide. My daddy? Lily looked at Marcus with wonder. Really? Marcus nodded, unable to speak.